Gold. It is the heartbeat of every pirate's dream, and the poison in every sailor's soul. In the summer of 1715, a legend was born from the white sands of the Caribbean, the Aurora de Sangre, a Spanish galleon so heavily laden with Aztec gold that her hull sat dangerously low in the turquoise water. But the ocean is a jealous mistress. She does not like to share her treasures with the living. As the galleon sailed into the eye of the abyss, the sun vanished, replaced by a sky the color of a fresh bruise. The men on deck didn't know it yet, but they weren't sailing toward port, they were sailing toward eternity. Out of the suffocating, sulphurous mist came the hunters. These were not the disciplined ships of the Royal Navy, but something far more primal. 3 black-sailed marauders emerged, ships that looked like they had been stitched together from the rotted timbers of 1,000 shipwrecks. Leading the pack was the Black Widow, a frigate designed for nothing but slaughter. No flags were raised in parley. No terms of surrender were offered. The pirates knew that a ship carrying the weight of a god's ransom would not go down without a fight. They began their slow, predatory circle, their dark hulls creaking like the growl of a starving beast. Can you feel the static in the air? The crushing silence before the iron starts to fly. It is the terrifying moment when history itself holds its breath, waiting for the first drop of blood to hit the deck. Fire! The command shattered the silence like a thunderclap, and the world dissolved into a chaotic inferno. The Aurora de Sangre roared back with 32 bronze cannons, unleashing a wall of flame that tore through the darkness. The first broadside from the Black Widow hit the galleon's flank with the force of a falling mountain. Look at the debris, thousands of oak splinters exploding into the air, flying like jagged shrapnel. The smoke is now so thick you can taste the bitter sulfur on your tongue. In this madness, the screams of men are silenced by the rhythmic, deafening thunder of the guns. Every impact sends a shock wave through the wood, vibrating through the bones of every man on board. This isn't just a battle for treasure anymore. It is a desperate struggle for the right to see the next sunrise. The destruction is absolute and unrelenting. A chain shot, spinning like a saw blade, tears through the galleon's main mast. For a heartbeat, time seems to freeze as the massive timber snaps with a sound like a forest breaking in two. It crashes down, crushing the deck and entangling the sailors in a web of frayed rope and torn canvas. Debris is everywhere, shattered crates, broken barrels of rum, and the sickening glint of gold coins spilling out into the blood-stained water. The pirates throw their boarding hooks, the iron teeth sinking deep into the burning oak. But the ship itself seems to be fighting back, groaning in agony as the fire licks the gunpowder barrels. Every splinter that flies is a piece of history dying, and the sea is waiting to swallow it all. The destruction is absolute and unrelenting. A chain shot, spinning like a saw blade, tears through the galleon's main mast. For a heartbeat, time seems to freeze as the massive timber snaps with a sound like a forest breaking in two. It crashes down, crushing the deck and entangling the sailors in a web of frayed rope and torn canvas. Debris is everywhere, shattered crates, broken barrels of rum, and the sickening glint of gold coins spilling out into the blood-stained water. The pirates throw their boarding hooks, the iron teeth sinking deep into the burning oak. But the ship itself seems to be fighting back, groaning in agony as the fire licks the gunpowder barrels. Every splinter that flies is a piece of history dying, and the sea is waiting to swallow it all. The destruction is absolute and unrelenting. A chain shot, spinning like a saw blade, tears through the galleon's main mast. For a heartbeat, time seems to freeze as the massive timber snaps with a sound like a forest breaking in two. It crashes down, crushing the deck and entangling the sailors in a web of frayed rope and torn canvas. Debris is everywhere, shattered crates, broken barrels of rum, and the sickening glint of gold coins spilling out into the blood-stained water. The pirates throw their boarding hooks, the iron teeth sinking deep into the burning oak. But the ship itself seems to be fighting back, groaning in agony as the fire licks the gunpowder barrels. Every splinter that flies is a piece of history dying, and the sea is waiting to swallow it all. Listen closely to the sound of a dying ship. It is not just the cracking of wood, it is a symphony of agony. As the Aurora de Sangre descends, the pressure of the deep begins to take hold. You can hear the iron bolts screaming as they are twisted by the weight of the water. On the deck, the line between the living and the dead has blurred. Pirates and sailors, once mortal enemies, now cling to the same shattered masts, their eyes wide with the realization that the gold they fought for is now their anchor to the grave. The emerald glow from the hold reflects in the rising bubbles, turning the sea into a cathedral of ghost light. There is no triumph here, only the cold, hard truth that in the eyes of the abyss, every man's soul weighs the same. But the whirlpool was not a natural phenomenon. Beneath the swirling chaos, a titan was waking up. For centuries, the great devourer has slept in the trenches, fed by the wrecks of the ambitious. As the shattered remains of the Black Widow and the Aura de Sangre sink into the dark, giant tentacles thick as the masts they destroy emerge from the silt. They do not seek the gold, they seek the heat of the fire and the vibrations of the struggle. Watch as the massive limbs coil around the broken hulls, dragging them down into the crushing depths where even sound cannot escape. This is the cradle of the deep, where the ocean's greatest hunters turn history into bone and coral. Years turn into centuries, and the world above forgets. The maps are redrawn, and the names of the captains fade into the dust of archives. But on stormy nights, when the fog is so thick you can't see your own hand, sailors still claim to hear the ghost of a broadside. They see a flicker of emerald light beneath the waves and a tattered black flag rising for a fleeting second before vanishing into the spray. I am the wrecked pirate, the witness to these forgotten moments. I guard the stories that the tides tried to wash away, because as long as someone remembers the roar of the cannons and the glint of the cursed gold, these ships will never truly be at peace. They are waiting for the next dreamer to sail too close to the edge. Will you be the one to find what's left? Or will you become part of the legend? But the Iron Rain was only the beginning. As the ships grind against each other, the sound of splintering oak screams louder than any man. The sea between the hulls isn't water anymore. It's a boiling soup of blood, gunpowder, and jagged debris. Men leap into the fog with nothing but rusted steel and desperation. You see it in their eyes, the pirates' fever. They aren't fighting for the crown or the gold anymore. They are fighting the realization that the wooden walls they trusted are disintegrating into toothpicks. The air is thick with the smell of scorched hair and raw ozone. This is the moment where the Aura de Sangre stops being a ship and starts becoming a funeral pyre. One more volley, one more explosion, and the very foundation of the ocean will crack. Look closely at the horizon as the sun dips below the line. That flash of green, the sailors call it the green flashy, isn't just a trick of the light. It's the door to the abyss swinging shut for another day. Down there, in the crushing silence, the gold still shines, but it has no value. It is merely a light source for the creatures that have never seen the stars. The Aura de Sangre and the Black Widow are now one with the reef, their bones entwined in an eternal embrace of iron and coral. They serve as a monument to a simple truth. The sea doesn't care about your rank, your flag, or the weight of your purse. It only cares for the silence that follows the storm. The tides will rise, and the tides will fall. New ships will sail these same waters, manned by new dreamers with the same hunger in their hearts. But beneath them, the ghosts of the wrecked pirate are always watching, always waiting. Our journey for today ends here, in the cold embrace of the deep. But remember, the ocean is vast, and its memory is infinite.